We want to take advantage of the opportunity that I have to welcome everybody as we get started in our study this morning. If you are visiting with us, we really appreciate you taking the time to come out and be a part of our family. You selected Woodlawn this morning as a place to worship for some reason or other, and I hope it's because of the love that you felt when you've been here before. If you have been here before, and I hope that you experience it as you're here this morning to encourage you to want to come back and be a part of our family here again at some given time. We're studying in Psalm chapter 127 and 128, if you want to turn there. I appreciate Steve reading that chapter again. I think it's very important that we cover these things because if we're looking at a theme of healing and healing our families and our homes, working toward whatever problem that we have in our families to make it better and allowing God to do that, I think it's important that we refer back to these two Psalms because there's so much packed into these Psalms that David has written to us that we can see and apply to our lives and move in the right direction and try to grow from it. We've been looking at what can the Lord do for my family. And that song we had on the next slide over is the one that we already read. We've already read it twice this morning. We'll be referring back to it again. But the first point we made last week is that God can help me build my family. Is that God can help me work toward building the right kind of family. That if God's not included, if the master architect is not included, then all of our efforts that we try to work towards together is in vain. It doesn't work. And we have to have Him as the source of the one as we try to build this family. And the second point we looked at is maybe something that we might not have examined to begin with. The Lord helps us protect our family. If you look there again in 127, unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. That as long as we have God watching our family, as He's protecting it, we look at all the protection that God provided for the Israelites. We look at how God had protected all of the other different groups as they went through the wilderness, as they came into a kingdom, as they had their own kings, as they went into captivity, how God always was there for them and took care of them when they were focused on God. So that we have God as our builder, and we're looking toward having God as our builder, that God will help us build our family, but will also protect it, watch over it for us. And that brings us into the lesson for this morning as we get into point 3 that's in your outline there. And that is that God can help me provide for my family. What does say that word provide? I mean, if you're playing a word association game, and I say the word provide, what immediately pops into your mind? What is the first thing that you think of when I say provide for your family? Is it money? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that popping in your head because that's typically what we think of, is it not? We provide, looking at something to financially support our family, to make sure they have enough food, to make sure they have enough clothing, to make sure they have shelter, to make sure they have all the necessities that we think that they must have in life. We seek to provide. And after all, parents, if you look at your own life, I guarantee you'll say you want to do whatever you can to make your child's life easier than what you have. That's your goal, isn't it? To see what you can do, to work hard as you can, to provide, to put your child in the most successful position that they can have. I should have looked at something here. The Charter Management Institute conducted a survey in 2012. The Business Energy Survey, that's what they call it. They questioned 1,500 managers of different corporations and businesses, large and small. This is what they found out. 20% of managers work an extra 14 hours more than what they're paid for, effectively equating to a 7-day work week. 43% feel that they are overloaded with work. 4 in 10 managers admit to missing family commitments because of work-related pressure. beginning of the week, we're here today, but 24% of people feel like they can't do anything during the weekend. They have to stay in bed to recover because the work week was so rough on them. Only half, 53%, claim they used their full holiday entitlement. That they didn't use any of their holiday time that they were allotted because they felt like they had to make sure they completed their jobs, make sure they took care of what needed to be taken care of. What that means is you worked on Christmas, you worked on Thanksgiving, or you worked on Memorial Day or Labor Day, not because you were forced to, but because you felt like you needed to. Last year, 66% was 53%. And the numbers just continue to go up. I mean, if I ask you, a lot of these, I feel like I fit into some of these categories. I mean, how many of you feel like you're so loaded at work? How many of us feel like we are so overwhelmed at work and we feel like maybe we're just barely making ends meet? We're not being able to provide as much as we would like to? Because if I ask you, if you would provide more for your family, would you take advantage of that opportunity? And I guarantee you that overwhelmingly, yes. Yes, we would. But we usually equate the word provide with money. We usually equate the word provide with niceness. You look back at the generations before us, and you'll see. Did the generations before us make it without cell phones? We feel like they're a necessity, aren't they? Now, don't get me wrong. I want my wife to have a cell phone, but if she has smartphone somewhere on a long road, I want her to be able to call me. And I like to be able to communicate with my spouse. And even given time when I feel the urge to call her and talk to her. But now we feel like that providing that is a necessity. But is it real? What about our children's having phones? What about them? I know. I'm included in this too. My daughter has, I'm not condemning, don't get me wrong, I'm not condemning those that are able to do that or that do that. But is that providing for, or is that an extra nice? The reason why we have such a hard time providing for now is because we are convinced that providing for means that we have to keep up with everything else that's going on because of the way life has gotten to be. I mean, it used to be. Back in the 50s, they did some research and they found out that through this research that computers would be able to take the place of a lot of things and that we would be able to have an extra day off. I mean, that the work week, they predicted the work week would be shrunken. I think you know what I mean. Shrinking from 5 days to 3.5 to 4 days with technology. Because technology is supposed to make it easy. What are we doing? We've taken that technology, we've taken those advancements, and we've pushed it to have more, to want more. And we have taken that word provide and used it solely for keeping up, having everything that everybody else has. Having everything that everybody else has. That's what we look at the word provide in. We want to seek to make our kids be successful, make our children successful. But the problem lies in what we view as successful. Look at Psalm 127, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Verse 2. It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest. It's in vain that you feel like you have to get up at the crack of dawn and you don't get home until after dark. Because you feel like you have to work hard every moment of the day to take advantage of every opportunity you got just to be able to catch up. Just to be able to make ends meet. Just to be able to provide. But if I ask for a show of hands, I get a lot of hands because I feel like I do this sometimes. are you able to sleep? Are you able to rest when you sleep? When you woke up this morning, did you wake up fully rested? Or did you wake up that you felt like, I'm not talking about those who went to the race last night, because I know you got in late. That's not what I'm talking about. But did you feel rested, the rest of us? Do you feel rested after you sleep at night? Like you got the full 8 hours and you're ready to go and take on the day? Most of us don't. Because a lot of people have trouble going to sleep. What's one of the number one drugs on the market right now? Those drugs that help you rest at night. Because you go to the doctor, you say, I'm worried about things at home, I'm worried about things at work, I've got all this pressure on me, I've got all this stress, I can't sleep at night. Even when I go to bed, my brain's working, I can't make it stop. We're developing scenarios of what we can do here and how we can do this, and we can't sleep at night. We're just trying to figure out how to survive. We need something to help us rest. The Bible says here that if we're working toward those goals, that if we're looking at the wrong means of what it means to provide for our families, trying to give them all of the niceties that the world has, trying to give them all of those delicacies that we are able to have today, then we're doing it for the wrong reasons. Because what's being destroyed? Oh, the faith. Russell and I, this has been a conversation that I've had with a lot of people over the course of a lot of different times. We were talking this week, if you look at the average family and how many nights you are able to stay at home with your children, parents, and have a meal together. How often is that? Now let me ask you, is that a positive for your family? Or is that a negative for your family? Does that enforce family values and biblical principles to your kids? Or does that pull away from them? We want them to be successful. We want them to be able to try these things. We want them to be involved in all of these things. Well, what's important? Relationships? Or everything else? Two people in this verse. The first one can't sleep because he's so tired. The second one that we read up here in the same verse, for he gives to his beloved sleep. For those that work hard to provide, that need to have that provided for them, that need to have all those things that they have to have, food, clothes, and shelter, those things to provide, there's an opportunity for them to have sleep because his beloved, they're his beloved, he gives them sleep. This is where we turn into the next chapter here. In Psalm 128, verses 1 through 6. Blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways. You shall eat the fruit of the labor of your hands. You shall be blessed, and it shall be well with you. Your wife shall be as a fruitful vine within your house. Your children will be as olive shoots around your table. Thus shall the man be blessed who fears the Lord. Now, that's what I want. Now, you need to understand what it means to have your wife as a fruitful vine. It's not a plant that just sits outside your door, but it's the understanding that your wife is being fruitful for you. That it's a blessing. That there's blessings that are coming from you and your relationship with your wife. And you look at your children, they're like olive shoots around your table because olives were they were good to have. And if you have an olive shoot that you can plant, you can have an olive tree here, and get an olive shoot up here, you can cut it and have an olive tree. You were blessed because you were able to have that, and you can use that for your family in tons of different ways. It was a blessing. Those people that fear the Lord, those people that are blessed is everyone who fears the Lord and walks in his ways. You shall eat of the fruit of your labor of your hands. You'll be blessed, and it shall be well with you. Meaning, if you put your focus on God, you will be able to work hard at what you've done. You will be able to sleep at night, and it will be well with you because you put your focus It's about balance. We can still have all these things for our children. We can still do all these nice things for our children as long as we balance it out with making sure we're focused on the right things and we don't put them with the wrong kind of focus. We don't train them to be focused on the wrong kind of thing. It's a balancing act. When you look at a tightrope walker, I read this week when you compare how to balance family with work and activities and God. A tightrope walker. He's got that pole that he's using to balance it all over, and he's walking on that line, a tightrope. Where is his eyes? What's he focused on the most? Is he looking what's over here? Is he looking how he's balancing these things over here? He's focused on a lot. He's focused on where he takes his next step. He's not worried about what this looks like over here. Because he knows if he takes his eyes off what he's doing, that next step, and looks over here, he's going to drift away. I did this week. But I did this week. I was driving down the road, turned up the road that we live on, looked in the seat to grab something. You know what happened immediately when I looked in the seat? Watch this hand. Holding on to the steering wheel, looked, my whole body went like this. Went off the road. Well, I didn't hit anything. Didn't damage my truck. Do you see what happens when you look at the things that are distracting to you? You turn. You go in that same direction. When you look over here, your body goes in that direction. It's hard to keep your body straight and look at something else that you're trying to balance. You stay focused on what's important, the line, where we step, on God, who's walking and fearing the Lord, 128, and not looking at what we're trying to balance. Things will be much better. Look at these verses. Look at Proverbs chapter 23, verses 4 and 5. This is what Solomon says. Do not toil to acquire wealth. Be discerning enough to desist, to stop. Be able to discern when enough is enough. When your eyes light on it, it's gone. For suddenly it sprouts wings, flying like an eagle toward heaven. You ever work so hard, you look back and you say, where did it all go? Solomon says, whatever you work hard to achieve, whatever you work hard to get, you know what it does? You turn away from it and it grows wings. And it just leaves. It just flies off into heaven. When you go look for it, you don't know where it's going because whatever you work so hard to have has just flown away and it's gone somewhere else. And that's Solomon tells us. All right, look at this next verse in Ecclesiastes. The same principle here. Look what it says. Whatever my eyes desire, I do not keep from you. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. Then I considered all that my hands had done, and the toil that I had expended in doing it, and behold, all was vanity, and striving after the wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun. I worked so hard at trying to get more. Everything my eyes lit on that I desired, I didn't spare myself any. I gave everything I wanted to myself and to my family. But it was as if I was fighting after the wind because we kept wanting more and kept wanting more. We kept wanting more, and we never could find the peace. So, Proverbs chapter 10, verse 22. The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. Ooh. Do you realize how powerful that verse is? Look at it again. The blessing of the Lord makes rich. That's what makes us rich. The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and the Lord adds no sorrow with it. That tells me, when you look at 128, and it's telling us that you're in vain that you rise up early, you go to bed late because about things. You just can't be at rest because you're focusing your mind on all these different things. God says, if you want to be rich, you put your focus on me, and I'll make you rich. I'll make you blessed. And guess what? I don't have sorrow with my blessings. I don't have anxious toil with my riches. You can have my riches and not worry. You can have my riches and sleep because you're my beloved. You can have my riches and be blessed. See, the Lord can help us provide for our family when we understand that providing for our family means making sure that they will be successful, not here in this life, but that they will be successful in the hereafter. That they will learn what it's like to have to work for a living. They will learn what it's like to be blessed in this life. And they will also learn what it's like to be able to balance it, keeping their eyes straight on the Word of God and on God's plan. And if we can make sure we direct them there, then they will have no trouble being able to balance life. Because I worry. Because I don't think I do a good job of balance. You know, when I preach to you, Lee can tell you that's coming out in me. That this is my life that I'm looking at just as well as yours. And I find it very difficult to be able to do these things. And I look at that as a goal for me to be able. I want to be able to have this. I want to be able to sleep at night. I want to be able to get good rest. I want to be able to provide for my kids and make sure that they have a successful life. My goal is to make sure they succeed when I'm gone. Because one day they're going to be faced with the same decisions that I was faced with more pressures added on to them. And I want them to be able to look and say, back when I was a kid, Mom and Dad did this for us. And because Mom and Dad did this for us, we saw those kinds of things are not that anymore. So we're going to be able to make the right kind of decisions where we are right now. As you look at it, that may be what's wrong with the churches. That may be what's wrong with our country. Because we've taken our eyes off of what's important. And we begin to watch how we're going to balance faith and world. Faith and world. And when we start with more world, our faith begins to tip over, so we try to make up for it over here, and we lose contact with the rest of society, and we want to be in touch with that as well. And we're constantly going back and forth. And really, we don't even be looking at it. This is what we do. Where we take our next step. As we walk. Try to balance it. God shows us in everything that pertains to life and godliness is involved in these passages that we have before us. In this word that we're able to read from this morning, if we would just learn to take advantage and seize the opportunity and the blessings that go along with it. Church, we need to write this verse down. We need to write that Proverbs 10:22 down. It needs to be posted all over our homes so that we're able to see it. The blessing of the Lord is what makes us rich. Amen? It's the blessing of the Lord that makes us rich. It's not what we work for. It's not what we strive after. And with the Lord's richness, the riches that come with serving Him and focusing on Him, He don't add sorrow to it. It means it's all good. It ain't never going to wear out. It ain't never going to go bad. It's never going to have to be replaced. It's never going to have to be renewed. It's never going to have upkeep. That happiness, that rich wealth that comes from God, that's the kind that we as a church, as a family, need to see how the Lord's provided for us. God can help me build my family. God can help me protect my family. God can show me what is important to help me provide for my family. This morning, when you look at your life, and you look at your problems, are they out of whack? See, the best part about faith is that when you figure out that they are, in God's Word. That we need to put our focus on this. Our pocketbooks on this. Our budgets on this. Our time on this. Not on all the things that we're trying to juggle. The blessing of the Lord is what makes one rich. Focusing on the tightrope that we're trying to walk, not focusing on what we're trying to juggle. If we get our priorities right, if you need to make those right, you can change it today. That's the blessing of it. But the beginning part is taking steps in your life to make it work. To make it fit. Not constantly talking about what we need to do, but talk about what we can and are doing. You've got that opportunity with Jesus Christ after you give us the sins. Put your priorities back in place. That opportunity is the only promise to us, the one we have right now. There's no better time, and nobody's going to look at you funny. Nobody's going to say, what have you done to cause you to respond to the gospel? They're going to look at you and say, I wish I had more of the guts to do that myself. As they step out of the aisle and come to Jesus and ask Jesus to help them get their priorities right. And ask God to let us provide for our families what is important. As we stand, as we sing.